Welcome back to the show Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale, and this is Point of Impact. What does masculinity mean to you? What does it mean to be truly masculine? Does it mean that hunter-gatherer, strong, silent warrior type? Perfect, intelligent, muscular, courageous? Is that masculinity? Is that it alone? If that were true, we'd all be born with Viking helmets on our heads and battle axes in our hands. No, we're born just the opposite, right? We're born weak, not knowing anything. We need help. We grow into strength. We learn our way into intelligence. We become courageous. We're also very vulnerable. And I think that's the other side of masculinity. If it were just that strong, silent warrior type, the world would never have needed men like Scott Speight. Scott, my guest today, has 2 masters, is a John C. Maxwell certified leadership and life coach, and is an Army Reserve chaplain. He uses a combination of his education, training, and faith to help coach, counsel, and guide others to success in all areas of their lives. He's also the creator of the Go Boldly Mastermind, a community of men where they can have both sides of that coin, courageous and vulnerable. And you can't have one without the other. With the core values of faith, family, and freedom, it's a place where men can come together in small groups and they can shed their armor. They become a little more vulnerable. A place where they can ask for and offer help. We all have insecurities. We all have doubts. We don't know everything. It's good to have a place where we can lift each other up. Go boldly. This is a place just like that. Because when we lift each other up, we lift an entire community up. And that's pretty masculine. Before we get into the conversation, I ask you to do something real quick for me. And I've got faith that you'll do so for me. Please, whatever platform you're on, whether it's YouTube or it's one of the podcast platforms, please hit the like button, subscribe, follow, give the show 5 stars, leave a review, leave a comment. Please. You're doing your little bit to lift up the rest of the community by helping us get this show out to more listeners and viewers. If you haven't done so already, send a link through your social media or send it in a text or email. What you're doing is you're helping others and helping your community. With that being said, and without further ado, my conversation with chaplain Scott Speight. Scott, my friend, welcome to the show. What is the haps, chaps?
Man, Aaron, I am so excited to be here with you today. I love your story, and I'm looking forward to just being on this call with you.
I couldn't help myself with it. What's the haps, chaps? The thing, being a former soldier, I actually loved hanging out with the chaplain corps, and I've met some very interesting chaplains throughout my history, my service in the Navy and the Army.
Yeah,
and it's always been an interesting conversation. So I'm beyond your story and what you're doing today. Just love talking to chaplains. But I want to welcome you first and thank you for coming on the show.
thank you.
And I'd like to ask you a little bit about your background and what led you into both ministry, the chaplain corps, and are you currently Army reservist?
Yeah, yep. Still on reserve, and I work for the chief of chaplains right now. Yeah.
And also in John Maxwell coaching certified.
Correct.
It's like before, I would love to ask you about the parallels in between those two. But first, tell me a little bit about what got you to here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up a preacher's kid and never wanted to never wanted to do ministry, never wanted to be a part of that. Church people can be very cruel. And I remember when I was in elementary school, my dad joined the Army as a reservist and as a chaplain. And and I look back now and I didn't follow his career in the military like I should have, and I regret that. But as he got up in rank and was doing some really cool things and serving soldiers, and I really began to take notice of what he was doing, and it was when I was in the 7th grade that he was terminated from a church, where I really found I've really realized it's because of that termination that I do what I do today. Like that, it was his experience, but it really impacts who I am as a man now and as a chaplain, and really kind of coming full circle and serving the military. I went in late in life, and somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Why did you join?" And I said, "Well, I didn't want to get to the end of my life and say that I never served. I want to be able to say that I served, whether it's 5 years or 20 years or 30 years. I want to be able to say that I gave back, and that was just absolutely important to me. And so, I've been to some cool places. It's afforded me opportunities to meet some really cool people and to engage with some really cool people from all over the world. And I'm just, it's been a fun ride. It's not been without its issues, that's for sure. Of course, you understand that.
There are a couple of things I've noticed about chaplains. For one, they're kind of a different animal than the rest of the big army, or they're different breed, so to speak. Such as the branches. You're either a soldier, a sailor, a Marine, Air Force. Airman first.
Right.
And then you're that special designator, that MOS or rate, whereas the chaplains are more chaplain than the uniform. Not to say that they're any less a soldier or anything like that, but it's much like the medical corps also.
Yeah.
They're doctors first.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're
so chaplains are unique,
I think.
Yeah. Very. So your former soldiers that become chaplains are a unique brand and breed of their own. They still bring that NCO mentality to the chaplain corps, and that's sometimes good and sometimes bad. Chaplains like me that went in without any prior service and just want to love on soldiers and help them find their way, help them to reconnect with family, reconnect with self, reconnect with God. I tend to build those relationships, and part of it is because I'm not them, and they know that they can be who they are with me, and I think that's so important. But you're absolutely spot on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I imagine for both the chaplains and the medical corps, it's very similar that they don't want those their troops, when coming to speak to them, to be reserved.
Yeah.
When want them to be frank, honest, truthful when speaking to them, so they can really connect and do their job. And what was it? Was this something that did you feel calling for the ministry early on? Did you know when you were younger, or is it something that there's something that kind of clicked in you later?
Yeah, great question. So I ran from it until I went off to college, and went to William Carey College over in Hattiesburg for 2 years. And was there that I really felt
Mhm.
God calling me into the ministry. 2 years into college, I had a head-on collision. I was traveling up to a church early in the morning, and car was in my lane. Had come over to my lane on a hill, and I got top of the hill, and there they were. And by all, if you'd have looked at the truck, you looked at all the, I shouldn't be here today. And the the pastor of the church that I was working at, really, he didn't show up at the hospital. He didn't provide any care, and I really got turned off from the church for quite a while. Um, but I began to realize, after going through some really tough times, um, I came back to my faith and realized that I wouldn't be where I'm at to. I wouldn't have been where I was at that moment had it not been for, you know, God allowing me to go through that period and understanding sometimes what other people experience. And so it was just a time of reflection and a time of, hey, something's got to change, something's got to give. And I remember sitting in my apartment one day, and my dad called and he said, "Have you ever thought about the military?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." What he said, "Well, you've been licensed, you've been ordained, and uh, all you really need to do is finish up your master's degree, and the Army will pay for it." And he said, "Just put it in a packet and see what happens." And so I did. And I got the call the day that the board met, because the chaplain corps has their own board. They don't go through the regular Army when it comes to recruiting. And the recruiter calls me and says, "Hey, you're in. You leave in January to go to officer basic." And I remember I arrived at Fort Jackson on a Sunday in January, and I remember texting my dad and saying, "What in the hell did you get me into?" And he just laughed and he said, "Just give us some time." And by the end of that 13 weeks, when I left, relationships have been forged that have been lifetime, still today, that I have. And I've loved it ever since.
It sounds like God sending you a none too subtle signal with the
Yeah.
car accident.
Yeah.
And did you feel like you were filling in a void, like there was something missing today that you really needed uh, to satisfy, not just within you, but in society?
Yeah, absolutely. We know as individuals when something's missing in our life, and we tend to fill it with other things. You know, social media, alcohol. Some guys fill it with porn, women, men. I mean, whatever an individual, male or female, whatever their thing is, they're going to fill that time with. But I think when it comes down to it, the one thing that's always missing is that peace that only God can give us. And sometimes, I hear people say, "Well, when all else fails, I'll pray." And it's like, why wait till all else has failed? Because that's just like asking for, failure after failure after failure. But I definitely knew at the time that I was missing something in my life. And it's definitely been the military. Looking back now, I'm like, I don't know where I would be today if it hadn't been for my military, training and the relationships and where I've been. So
How long has it been now?
I've been in 14 years. I've got 6 more to go.
Yeah, I keep thinking about the chaplains that I've met throughout the years, and it's from Southern Baptist to Franciscan monk to Orthodox Jew, and I tell you what, the Orthodox rabbi was he was the fleet rabbi for the 6th Fleet U.S. Navy, and U.S. Navy's 6th Fleet in Gaeta, Italy. And of course, that means we had to cook kosher, because I was a Navy cook before I went Army or Navy. Well, I respected it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But all of them,
Agreed.
very interesting. People brought their own touch, their own perspective, and of course their own religion into it. And I think it all makes us stronger. Now, to sharing those beliefs, sharing that type of faith. Now, of course, the Franciscan monk also did home brewing, which I appreciate. But have you noticed a resurgence in attendance? Have you seen people coming back to the faith in general?
But it's an interesting question. I think that you've got people that during COVID, they walked away from their faith out of fear, out of frustration, and out of anger. And then I think what a lot of what we're noticing is people coming to faith because of COVID. And so you've got two different dynamics of people that were afraid and feeling like, oh, the world is coming to an end. I've got to do something now to make some changes. So I think it's a both and. Some are walking away, some are coming back, some are finding faith for the first time.
And that's individuals coming to the faith, not back to it. But what I'm getting at is, do you see is there a greater challenge today than there's been in previous generations? Is there something about society, media, technology that's got us looking for something a little more secure, a little more steady to believe in?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think people are on the search for something, whether it's God or, I think they're searching for something that gives them that peace. And I think a lot of people are coming out of COVID. They're still dealing with some trauma from COVID, losing loved ones, losing friends. And I think a lot of people are just asking the question, why? And there is no answer. And that's a tough one to try to, explain to people. There is no answer. We don't know. But I think people are looking for something now.
Mm-hmm. And you, not only did you get the training through the military, but you also are a John Maxwell, coach, leadership coach, and life coach.
Yeah.
How does that? Well, first, why did you decide to do that as well, and how does that parallel with the ministry of being a chaplain?
So, I was looking for somebody to kind of partner with in a certification manner, and there's a lot of good certification programs. I love Tony Robbins, but one of the issues that I have with Tony Robbins is just the language that he uses when he's working with people and the approach that he takes sometimes. And I just didn't feel like I aligned with that. And John Maxwell had come into the idea had come into my life several years before, and I turned it down. And it came back up again, and I thought, okay, it's coming back around. I need to take a look at this a little more serious. The guy that founded John Maxwell's certification program, his name's Paul Martinelli. And Paul traveled with Les Brown, he traveled with Bob Proctor, and he traveled with some big people. And one of the things that I really connected with Paul was on really how our mindset can either make us or break us, and how people have literally died because they couldn't find the belief in themselves, and they couldn't find the belief in others, and so they gave up on themselves. And connecting with Paul, I realized how important mindset was, and how important people's potential was. And one of the things that when you're in combat, whether it's real combat or it's just day-to-day combat, when we lack the resiliency, and I don't think we teach people resiliency anymore like we used to. I think it comes down to a mindset. And so partnering with John Maxwell, who was faith-based, former pastor, I connected with his values, and I connected with the way he treats people. And something that I'm trying to integrate into my coaching is it's more of a coaching and a pastoring, coaching and a speaking, and how I can connect others with God in that way, whatever that may look like for them. So great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Mindset's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're pairing, God's word with mindset. Can you expand a little bit more on that and how that's affecting people you speak with those you coach or speak to through the faith?
Yeah, I think God is different for everybody, and I think their experience, and I think part of that, the church does not necessarily do a good job of connecting people and allowing people to say, "Hey, your relationship with God is unique to you." I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up a preacher's kid, and we were taught, you got to have a daily devotional. It's got to be this long, and it's got to be for this, and it's got to be for that, and it's so controlled, and it's like, are you that way with your own earthly father? Do you go and say, "Dad, I've got to have 10 minutes of your time today, and then after that we're done, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my time." And so I think helping people mentally and connect that mindset of, who is God to them? What does he mean to them, and how do they connect with him? Just like you and I connect, or just like you and your wife connect. It's very unique. My relationship with you is different than the way you connect with your wife. And your relationship with your wife is different than the way you connect with, your battle buddies from the past. And I think helping people to recognize their uniqueness in that unique relationship is so critical.
Mm-hmm. Besides the army, the military service, would you say you're a reservist?
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 master's degrees. What is your day job, your civilian side type of work?
So 2 masters, one in chaplaincy, one in counseling. Almost done with a doctorate in counseling. I've written a book called Living Your Life in Peak Performance, Stop Playing Small. And then I've got a business where I train men and women to become board certified chaplains. And so it's about a 1.5 year long process, Clinical Pastoral Education International, where they are the subject matter expert on themselves, and it's an adult learning style. And so we look at who they are, and when they're doing a visit with a patient, what's going on in that moment, what's going on with them, what's happening in their mind as they're going through that visit. And just, there's a lot of objectives that we have to meet. And so for the last 12 years, that's what I've put a lot of people through this program, and had a lot of people get board certified and get jobs, hospital, hospice, you name it. And so something I always tell them is that I'm not looking for massive transformation. I'm just looking for that needle to move 1 degree to the right. And when we move the needle 1 degree to the right and we stay on that trajectory, who knows where you end up? And I equate it to an airline pilot filing a flight plan from Charlotte, North Carolina to San Diego. If that pilot veers 1 degree to the north and doesn't go back.
So whatever uniform you're wearing each day, you're a chaplain and you're teaching other chaplains.
Pretty much.
Tell me about Go Boldly. Tell me about this mastermind you've created, this community you've created.
So I left to go to Kuwait and Jordan and Egypt for 3 days, and was running some missions. I was going to meet with the Jordanian Armed Forces about training their imams. I was going to Egypt to discuss a huge multilateral training event that we were going to do. And a week after being in Kuwait, COVID shut everything down. And on the Camp Arif John, I was walking around the track one night. The gym was closed and all the shops were closed. And so basically all we could do was walk the track. And, you just hit me that this, this vision of we need people to step up and be bold. And this idea of faith, family, and leaders came to my mind. And I went back, and what really stuck out was Genesis 12:1, where God told Abram to go to the land that he would show him. He didn't say, go to this land and do this. He just said, go. And it took Abram being bold and stepping out. And I think too often, people have a dream and they've got a goal and they've got things they want to do, but they're too scared to step out. And so if I can help just one individual be more bold in their faith, be more bold and taking care of their family, be more bold at work as a leader, that's where this idea of go boldly, came in. And then we've got a VIP program around the peak performance. I think everybody's level of peak performance is different. And I want, we tend to equate ourselves or compare ourselves to other people and, they've done this and they've done that, but you're unique and God created you unique. And so what does your peak performance look like? What does that look like? And why are you playing small? Why are you staying in your zone of comfort? Why are you staying, in this zone of just, I'm just going to get up and do life. Having been at the bedside of many people as they've taken their last breath, no one has ever said, man, I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. Nobody. It's always been, I wanted more time with family. I wish I would have taken that job. I wish I would have written that song or written that book or taken that trip. And I just think that if we as an organization can help people step out boldly, then we've accomplished something.
So if I've got this right, it's a group of men that use faith in each other to truly unlock their best selves and become leaders, become best family men, and it sounds like a terrific mission. How's it been turning out so far? You've had some success.
Yeah, so we've got, a lot of men are saying, hey, I need this connection. And I think that's really where the value is at, is the relationships that are built inside the mastermind. My vision is to keep the groups small, 10 or less, so that people have a voice, people have a place. I've been a part of a lot of masterminds where there's been, 25, 50 people in those. And I joined for a reason. I joined to fulfill a purpose or to meet a need. And I didn't get my need met in that, business or personal, whatever it was, because there were just too many people. And that's what I want to do different. I want to be different. And also, I'm not looking to market this and go, hey, here's the system to get you to 7 figures. I'm more focused on, here's the system to help you transform into the best version of you. And what do you need to overcome? What trauma do you need to battle to overcome that, to become who you are, who you were created to be? So that's my focus.
That sounds great. And when you these mastermind, these small groups, they meet weekly, online? Is this in person? How does it work? And what kind of what's involved with the mastermind?
Yeah. So, of course, a mastermind is a group of like-minded individuals that come together with different goals. And so these groups are very small in number. We meet weekly by Zoom. And each week we spend about 10 minutes kind of going around the room doing a catch up. And then each week, 2 guys have what I call man in the middle. And so they get to bring, for 20 minutes or so, they get to bring whatever they want to be coached on, talked about whatever's going on in their life, personal, professional. They can bring it to the group and get the advice, get the accountability from these 8 or 9 other guys. And so if the other person's doesn't have anything that day, that person would get 40 minutes of time. We cut them off at 1 hour so that we set some good boundaries and honor people's time. And then we'll have some live events throughout the year where these groups can come together and actually meet in person, so that those relationships are even further forged, for lifetime relationships. And we're just encouraging people. Something I always say to my clients: the more vulnerable you are, the more you're going to grow, the more you're going to transform. And I've seen it time and time again. And this is a safe place for people to be vulnerable and share their fears, their experiences that they may not want to share with other people.
Touching back on what we talked about just a little bit earlier, when these groups get together and the men start talking about the challenges in their lives, are there a few common topics? Is there a few common challenges that everybody's facing? Are they more unique to the individual? What do you see? What do you see when you get these people together?
Yeah. So some common challenges that I see are a struggle with taking their business to the next level because of fear. Seeing, especially in men, struggles with their spouse. Their needs are not being met. They don't know how to discuss it with their wife without it ending up into an argument. Or maybe their spouse is not completely on board with their entrepreneurship. The other thing that we're seeing is how to balance their time between their family and their business. Where's that balance of, do I spend 60 hours a week on my business and 5 hours a week with my family, or, helping them to balance that. And at the end of the day, I always tell people it's your family that's going to be there. The business, business can come and go. So you got to set some priorities.
What's next for Go Boldly? What's next for you?
So what's next is I'm going to start getting on more stages and speaking more, and bringing God to men. Building out the VIP program for the peak performance. I just think that there's a place there for people that really want to focus on that. And then putting out the next book. So that's first and foremost, getting that book out.
What's the book about?
It's going to be a sequel to Peak Performance. I haven't I've got the outline started, but I haven't gotten it all ironed out. But it's going to be, it's really, what have I learned since I put that book out in 2015? I've earned a second master's since then, and I've almost finished my doctorate. I've been deployed 3 times in that amount of time. So those experiences and what I've learned and how to overcome are going to be stories within inside that book. And so, what happened then, what happened now. And it's really, I think it's going to be a life-changing book.
How soon does it come out? Are you still working on it? TBD.
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Well, maybe you can get.
I'll definitely let you know when it comes out.
Maybe you can get ChatGPT to help out. Did you see? So if I
could help you, right? Do what?
So you're speaking. You're still working as a chaplain. You're training other chaplains. You've got the book in process and this Go Boldly mastermind. It sounds like you're taking the training and your faith and using it to, well, quite a few, your advantage and many others. Do you feel like you're reaching your potential, or at least you're on track? If you find alignment with your course?
And that is a great question, and it's something that I battle with every single day, because I think that just as you've probably experienced, coaches have no problem coaching other people and helping them to reach their potential. It's hard for a coach to coach themselves, or a counselor helping another individual, but it's hard to counsel themselves. It's one of those things where I've got to surround myself with people that are going to build me up and hold me accountable. And that's why I love hanging out with people like you, because I think that it's about pushing each other. And if I were to be completely transparent, am I reaching my full potential? Absolutely not. There's a lot more that I could be doing, but I'm working to overcome that and figuring out what it is that's holding me back and taking that off. I've got a T-shirt. One of my taglines is live beyond limits. And I think too often we live with, we keep these limits on ourselves. But I think if we start to live beyond limits, it's always when we do that which we fear the most that we're supposed to do. And I think life is waiting for us to go after it.
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of elevating your circle to elevate yourself, to elevate your life. You've got to be around people who bring you up rather than bring you down. I don't remember who said the quote, but it always pops in my head, and I've repeated much to the chagrin of my oldest son far too often. Is if you hang out with chickens, you're going to start clucking. If you hang out with eagles, you're going to soar. I can almost feel that math in the words as I say it, just along mockingly when I say it. But that's why I'm a huge proponent of
it's so true. Yeah. Yeah. And if you start hanging out with drug addicts, you're going to become a drug addict. I mean, it's just common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so choose your circle wisely, for sure.
And if you're looking for something in particular, you got to find the people who are already doing it. You don't make the mistake. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You can learn from other people's wisdom. You can see how they're doing it. And sometimes find an entirely new way you didn't even know. Discover that you had, like we've been talking about, far more potential than you even imagined. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of masterminds and coaching. I think what you've got going on here is a pretty special thing.
Yeah, and I always think about I can't think of his name now, but the guy that broke the 4-minute mile. Everybody said he couldn't do it. Roger Bannister. Everybody said that he couldn't do it. And then he decided one day that he was going to do that. And after he did it, look at how many people, even high schoolers today, are breaking that 4-minute mile. And to me, that just always comes back to somebody's got to be the first. Why not me?
So then maybe turn around a common question and ask maybe you've asked this to some of your proteges, trainees, students, within the mastermind, within the other coaching areas. What's success? Well, what is the definition of success to you?
It used to be, and I struggle with this sometimes too, but it used to be about how much money I made. But now it's really becoming how many lives can I transform? How many lives can I have an impact on? And who can I help to pull out their potential? I always tell my clients and my students that I can see that light bulb go off sometimes, and I love those aha moments. And it's in those aha moments when a client or a student goes, "Oh my gosh, this is why, it's that experience 20 years ago that has held me back, and now I'm free from that." That's what I absolutely love, is those aha moments of that light bulb going off and everything shifting in their life and becoming, living their full potential. And so helping men and women to reach their potential is success for me.
I like that. It's known about the, money, muscles, and education isn't the finish line. It's how you get there and what you do with it. When you have it, like you said, the impact you're making in the lives you're impacting along the way. Well,
yeah. So I don't live too far from you. I'm over in Milton, and there's an old cemetery near my home that I go walk around when I'm training for military stuff, and I love to just sit and look at some of the headstones because they go back to the late 1800s, and I just think about who they were, what they did, what they didn't do, and I just wish I could just hear their story and learn from their stories. But it's sometimes it's just recognizing that some of them died with a song in their heart or a book in their head, and they never got it out.
A lot of people are having a hard time and they need the support of others. They need the support of God and their faith. And that community of like-minded people to help bring them up.
Yes.
You,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Sometimes it just takes one person believing in you.
It's true. You mentioned the passage in Genesis as the cornerstone of the mastermind. Can you tell me about why you chose that particular one, what it means, and how it became the cornerstone?
So in that passage, God comes to Abram and he says, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land that I will show you." And it's really the second verse that really kind of snaps something within me. He says, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." But to me, that says it all. That when we're obedient, when we take that step of faith, when we go boldly, God will bless not only you, but those that you come in contact with, because he's using you to do great things. I think that's just the basis of that for me.
It's a pretty strong passage, and I think it's a great model to base the mastermind on. And like I said, I really appreciate what you're doing for men, our community in general, for the service.
Thank you.
And for my audience, I appreciate you coming on. Is there, before we wrap up, is there anything I haven't asked yet that you would like to talk about, or you think I should have asked?
No, not that I can think of. I really appreciate, you gave up so much for our freedom, and you are a true inspiration to me. Is just there's things that I think we take for granted sometimes, and I'm grateful for you and just the opportunity to be on with you. And so thank you for this opportunity, and love to connect with you in person sometime.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. If anybody wants to learn more about you or about a Go Boldly Mastermind, where can they find you?
They can go to goboldlymastermind.com, or they can email me at scott@goboldlymastermind.com. All on Facebook, Scott D Speight.
Fantastic.
And of course, the Go Boldly group is out there as well. So
terrific. Well, Scott, thank you very much for your time and sharing with our audience. And I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.